The Mughal Empire, renowned for its grandeur and cultural achievements, also harbored a dark and brutal side that often goes unspoken. In the shadow of its magnificent palaces and intricate artworks lay a series of execution methods so savage they seem almost unimaginable today. From the slow agony of impalement to the terrifying precision of the elephant execution, these methods were not merely about inflicting pain. They were statements of power designed to instill fear and suppress dissent. What drove the Mughal emperors to use such horrifying methods? Through a blend of historical accounts and grim details, we will explore the chilling practices that marked the darker side of Mughal rule. Impalement. Impalement was a gruesome method of execution used in the Mughal Empire that involved spearing the victim through the body. This brutal punishment was often reserved for those accused of the most heinous crimes, such as betrayal or severe rebellion. The process began with a sharp, long stake being driven through the victim's body, typically through the rectum or vagina, and sometimes exiting through the mouth or shoulders. The stake was then erected, leaving the victim suspended and exposed. This method was not only torturous, but also designed to prolong suffering and display the consequences of defiance. The condemned person would often remain alive for hours or even days, enduring extreme pain and a slow, agonizing death. Impalement served both as a means of punishment and as a public spectacle, demonstrating the brutal enforcement of Mughal law and deterring others from similar transgressions. Beheading. Beheading was a common and highly visible execution method in the Mughal Empire, often used for those accused of serious crimes or high-profile offenses. The process was relatively straightforward compared to other methods but was no less dramatic. The condemned person was typically placed on their knees or lying down, and an executioner wielded a sharp sword or axe. The beheading was often conducted in public, serving both as a spectacle and a deterrent. The ceremony surrounding the execution could be elaborate, with officials and spectators present to witness the final act of justice. The severity of beheading as a method of execution was underscored by its association with the emperor's authority and the gravity of the crime committed. While it was swifter than many other methods, it still conveyed the harshness of Mughal rule and the consequences of defying it. Scaffism. Scaffism, also known as the boots, was an exceptionally cruel method of execution used in the Mughal Empire. This torturous punishment involved placing the victim between two boats or hollowed-out tree trunks, which were then sealed together, leaving the person confined in a narrow, suffocating space. The victim was forced to endure a horrifying ordeal. Their body was smeared with honey and milk, attracting insects and vermin. The confined space and the exposure to the elements led to a nightmarish experience as insects feasted on their flesh. Over time, the victim suffered from extreme discomfort, infection, and a slow, agonizing death. Scaffism was used for severe offenses and was designed to be a public spectacle, demonstrating the brutal enforcement of Mughal law and deterring others from committing similar crimes. Stoning. Stoning was a brutal execution method used in the Mughal Empire, especially for crimes deemed particularly severe, such as adultery or blasphemy. The process involved the condemned person being buried up to their chest or standing with their arms bound, while a crowd of onlookers hurled stones at them. The goal was to inflict fatal injuries through repeated blows. The stones ranged in size, from small pebbles to larger rocks, increasing the victim's suffering and prolonging their agony. This method was not only a form of capital punishment, but also a public spectacle intended to serve as a stark warning to others. The communal nature of stoning underscored the moral and legal norms of the time, making it a powerful if horrifying symbol of Mughal justice. Hanging. Hanging was a common execution method in the Mughal Empire used for a variety of crimes. The process involved suspending the condemned person by a rope around their neck, typically from a gallows or a tree. The rope was tightened, causing strangulation and eventually death. This method could be executed swiftly or prolonged, depending on the severity of the crime and the intended spectacle. In some cases, the victim was left hanging for an extended period, serving as a grim reminder of the consequences of breaking the law. Hanging was a visible and effective way to enforce authority, with the execution often taking place in public spaces to maximize its deterrent effect. Despite being less torturous than some other methods, hanging was a stark and brutal demonstration of Mughal justice. Crushing. Crushing was a particularly gruesome execution method used in the Mughal Empire. This method involved placing the condemned person in a device or under heavy weights that slowly crushed their body. The device might include a large stone or metal plates that were gradually pressed together, or the victim could be placed under a heavy object like a large rock that was slowly lowered onto them. The process was designed to cause immense pain and suffering, with death coming slowly as the victim was crushed under the weight. Crushing was typically reserved for those who committed serious crimes or as a form of severe punishment for political or social offenses. Flaying Alive. Flaying alive was one of the most excruciating execution methods employed in the Mughal Empire. This horrifying punishment involved peeling the skin off the victim's body while they were still alive. The process began with the victim being restrained, often spread-eagled, and their skin was carefully cut and stripped away in sections. This was done with meticulous precision to ensure the maximum duration of suffering. Flaying alive was typically reserved for individuals accused of severe crimes such as betrayal or rebellion, and served as both a method of torture and a public deterrent. The pain inflicted was immense, and death came slowly as the victim endured the agony of being skinned. This method was not only a stark display of the empire's power, but also a grim reminder of the fate that awaited those who defied Mughal authority. Death by elephant. In the Mughal Empire, death by elephant was one of the most terrifying and dramatic execution methods. This method involved using a massive trained elephant to crush the condemned person. The process was both a public spectacle and a grim punishment designed to instill fear and assert the emperor's power. The victim, often someone accused of severe crimes such as treason or rebellion, would be tied up and laid down in a designated area, usually in front of a large, eager crowd. The elephant, which had been specially trained for this purpose, was commanded to step on the prisoner. The immense weight of the elephant ensured a swift and agonizing death, with the crushing force often causing fatal injuries almost immediately. The brutality of this execution method made it a powerful deterrent against insurrection and crime, reinforcing the emperor's authority and demonstrating the severe consequences of defying Mughal rule.